My name's Patrick Murphy and I'm the North Queensland correspondent for the Australian newspaper. Look, it's very hard to define exactly what journalism includes. I mean, broadly speaking, your job is to get things in the newspaper that other people don't know about, so that means news breaking. How you do that, you speak to as many people as you can every day, you take phone calls, sometimes you get tip-offs to stories. And in this role here in North Queensland, I'm the only person in the bureau, so it means I organise photographers, keep in contact with other regional journalists, who can help me out with stories that are going on. Usually the trick is to getting onto people who are central to the story. Now, that means tracking down phone numbers, which is the big trick in journalism. Most journalists have contact books that go for hundreds of pages because you keep numbers. So that you always want to get onto people, get the talent, as it's called in the game. You sort of make a judgment about what's the most interesting bit of information, and that's generally what your lead to the story is. So I'll sit here and write the story up in a minute and then send it off to Brisbane and Sydney, and it might get in the paper, it might not. Journalism is a funny industry. There's no core skills to it. There are a lot of people who think they're going to be good at it who aren't, and a lot of people who don't think they're going to be any good at it who are. So the only training that's applicable is on-the-job training. I didn't do a journalism degree, I did a Bachelor of Arts degree. Went overseas and backpacked and came back probably in my mid-20s with not too firm an idea of what I wanted to do. I knew that the important thing was getting yourself published, just getting your name out there so editors know who you are, being able to meet deadlines. That's the most essential thing in journalism, being able to meet deadlines. I mean, it sounds like a cliche, but just don't give up. Most people in journalism get there because they're persistent, not because they're particularly bright or stand out on paper, just because they keep going and going. Well, the other way to get into journalism too is, of course, to cultivate journalists. So get a job at a newspaper. It doesn't have to be as a journalist. And once you know the journos, they'll be able to show you how to get through the system and apply for jobs and where the jobs are. Journalism is a very broad church. There's a lot of different types of journalism. So, some journalists in newspapers at least are very good writers, but perhaps not great newsbreakers. Some are great newsbreakers, but are not great writers. Journalists that do well tend to be people who know what side they're fighting for, and that is that you fight for your organisation, and that is you fight for, in my case, your readers. Now, that means you've got to have a strong nose for when people are giving you PR rubbish spin, or when people are trying to throw you off a story. You have to be occasionally combative and occasionally willing to be aggressive and to follow up a story and to sort of confront people. Well, look, the lifestyle opportunities are that you get to travel. I mean, and you get paid to travel. You get flown all over the Cape. I get flown all over the Cape. I've been sent on overseas assignment now, I think 4 times. You get to see things at close hand. You're paid to be, to go and look at things. You're paid to travel. You're paid to go and see things that most people don't see. There are some journalists who make a lot of money, like hundreds and thousands of dollars a year. Journalists who work in newsrooms and that sort of stuff, I think they're paid quite well. I mean, they get paid more than teachers, put it that way. When it's good, journalism is fantastic, and your great days are, it's the best job in the world. But the problem is when it's bad and it's quiet, you get bored very easily, and sometimes it's very difficult to manage those quiet days. You've got to know that it can be frustrating, it's competitive, it's got long hours. It can be a very lonely job sometimes because you're on the road, or you're standing around outside police stations or courthouses for hours on end. But that's also one of the great things. You get to just stand around and talk shop and gossip and do all the rest of the things that journos do. The hardest part of journalism is being in the centre of what can sometimes be very stressful situations for people, and journalists don't often appreciate that because they're so used to sort of doing intrusions or turning up to car accidents or talking to people who are very stressed. There's a huge turnover of journalists. Like, quite a lot of people only stay in the industry for 4, 5, 6, 7 years and go off and do other things. Funnily enough, it's long been said that newspapers are about to die, or they're going to be swamped by television or radio or the internet and all this sort of stuff. But in my 12 years now in the industry, there's more journalists than ever. There's more opportunities for journalists than ever. There's more media around, so there's more jobs for journalists.
Any last messages?
Not really.